Hi, welcome to Whittling Tips. In today's tip, we are going to look at how to tell if your knife is whittling sharp. And that whittling is important because you might have a sharp knife, a pocket knife, for instance, that is legitimately pretty sharp and can pass some sharpening tests. But is it sharp enough to whittle? And there are many ways that you may have learned to test the sharpness of a knife. You might have done the old will it cut paper test, right? You might have done the old, will it shave hairs off my hand? Ugh. Uh, you may have even heard of the one where you put the blade on your finger and see if it catches or if it slides off. And all of those methods will tell you if a knife is sharp. But if you want to know if your knife is whittling sharp, I would argue that the best way to know is to try it on a piece of wood. And that will help you not just know if your knife is sharp, but it's going to help you develop a sense of understanding your knife, knowing when it's starting to dull, even just a little bit, and testing a new knife, testing a friend's knife. It's going to give you a sense to know if the knife is sharp. So let me show you how I would do that on a knife that I know is sharp. If I take a sharp knife and I make a cut into the corner across the grain, or I could go completely across the grain like this. What I'm looking for in a sharp knife is completely clear and shiny facets. So that facet that I just carved right here is so smooth and shiny. It's like the wood's been burnished as it went through. And even on these side ones there, it's got a shimmery feel to it. That is the sign of a sharp knife. And you'll get comfortable with that as you carve more, and you'll see that it's going through the wood like that. So that's what you want to look for. Your knife is whittling sharp if you can see that, especially as it's cutting across the grain, that it's creating these really shiny, smooth facets. It's even smoother than the sides of the piece of wood that haven't been cut. So to develop that sense, your knife is not likely to go from really sharp like this, which is probably how it's going to come. You're going to get a new knife and it's going to be really sharp, and it's going to gradually dull. So I'm going to show you in gradations what that might look like. And as a disclaimer, I'm going to show you a few different knives here. All of these are really good knives. These are good whittling knives, highly recommended. Any knife that you use after a while will start to dull a little bit and will need stropping or sharpening at some point. So it's not a knock on these knives at all. But here I have a knife that I know is just starting to go a little bit dull and could probably use a stropping. And when I make that cut, what I start to see is just a little bit of a cloudiness on there. It's not as shimmery. So here's my shimmery one. This one, it's making the cut, but you can see there's a little bit of a dullness, a little bit of a cloudiness to it, right? Maybe a little bit hard to see in the video, but that's a sign that it's time to stop and strop. I've got another video on stropping your knives. If you're not familiar with that, you can check it out. But that's a sign that you're gonna get ready to stop and strop. So let me show you another one. This one, going across the grain, is probably just a little bit cloudier than the last one. And hopefully you can see that there. Just a little bit cloudy. And what's happening there is that as the knife dulls just a little bit, instead of cutting smoothly like this one, it's tearing the grains or the fibers of the woods a little bit. And so at the end of those wood grains, it's just tearing, and that's what that little white kind of cloudy piece is looking like. It's still a good knife. You can strop it. It'll get back to sharpness. So as a severe example, let me show you another one. And these Opinel knives can be sharpened, can be, decent knives for whittling. So again, this is not a knock on the wood or the knife at all. I just know that this one came and it needs a little bit of sharpening. Let me just switch that over there. trying to go too deep with this. It's a little bit wider than I'm used to using. And so what you can see there is a little bit more severe examples of not just cloudiness, but like lines going across, right? And that means that that knife is probably due for not just a stropping, but a sharpening. Sandpaper, stone, whatever your process is for that in order to get those larger nicks out. So that's the progression. We have our whittling sharp knife is making these here. As it starts to dull, you'll get a little bit cloudy. You'll get a little bit more cloudy, and then you'll get to the point where you start to have those. And your goal to keep your knives in whittling shape is to really, you're going to start here. Once you start to notice it, and you'll notice it both in the way that you're pushing the knife through the wood and you see that little bit of cloudiness, stop and strop. So that's it. That's how to tell if your knife is sharp, if it's whittling sharp. Thanks for watching and happy whittling.